Education Secretary Miguel Cardona will end his week-long back-to-school bus tour today, where he's pushed for the education initiatives of the Biden-Harris administration. And joining us now to discuss this and some more public education headlines is Vice President of Parents Defending Education, Caroline Moore. Good morning to you, Caroline. Great to see you. Happy Friday. So first, what was this back-to-school bus tour showcase for the Department of Education with our taxpayer dollars?
Absolutely. So the Secretary Cardona decided to go around to battleground states, to Wisconsin, to Michigan, to Pennsylvania, which we all know are all in the headlines for political things these days, not necessarily for good education, as well as Illinois, which we know is a terrible place for education. So he went around and met with public school advocates, including Randy Weingarten, which seems, outwardly political to me. And he advocated for, the Biden-Harris initiatives in education, how great they're all doing, but we all know that's not really the truth. What's really going on is not so great in public schools.
Yeah, in May of this year, the White House unveiled nearly $900 million in awards to hundreds of school districts to try to get them to do away with their gas-fueled school buses and replace them instead with those electric models. How are electric buses working out for those schools? And any word on if the bus he used on this tour was electric?
That's a great question. It was not electric as far as I could look up. I looked again this morning because I thought, gosh, wouldn't that be a great initiative? They're advocating for it. So wouldn't it only make sense that the bus that he's going on would be electric? Not the case. There are about 800 school districts across the country that have at least one electric bus on hand in their fleet. However, we know that this can't really be an end-all be-all. They're going to have to continue to use gas powered cars. And unfortunately, they seem to be throwing away money on this initiative.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges with those all electric buses. Even with the hybrid buses, we're seeing some challenges in some cities that also got taxpayer funding to replace their gas powered buses. In the headlines also right now, all the education policy proposals from presidential candidate Kamala Harris when running for president during the 2020 election cycle. And as a senator, Harris advocated for removing school resource police officers from school campuses back in 2019. Now, she claimed it would be an effort to, quote, demilitarize school campuses. What's your thoughts on this?
I think that's a really concerning thing as we see, violence seems to increase at schools these days, whether it's bullying or, the terrible tragedy that happened in Georgia earlier this week. Schools need to be equipped with tools to protect both teachers, students, and anybody who's in the school. It's a public institution and they really, they need resources on hand. I think the thought that schools are militarized is really concerning to me. I grew up in public schools and I always had, a cop on hand in high school especially, and I felt safer because of that. I didn't feel threatened or, worried. I felt safer. And I think that most Americans feel that way. I looked on her website, still no policies.
Yes, so we don't know where she stands on that particular policy that she did, co-sponsor and also support back in 2019. New York City Public Schools has a new mandatory curriculum called the Education Equity Action Plan. What is this? Can parents and students opt out, and can teachers opt out of being forced to teach it?
That's a really great question. What it is it's a curriculum that goes from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And it's lessons that focus on identity. It's that oppressor versus oppressed mentality, viewing the world through, right and wrong. But we all know that things aren't that simple. History needs to be taught and learned from. And no student should ever go to school and feel worried or threatened because of, their racial background. Every student should go to school thinking that, they're great and unifying students as opposed to pitting them against each other. So we would advocate that, parents write in, they figure out what curriculum is being adopted by their student, their student's classroom and their student's teacher. And because teachers can pick and choose, what they actually are teaching the kids. And so I would advocate that, teachers move away from this kind of stuff. Go back to history.
And parents should find out if
parents should write in and figure out what's actually going on in their classrooms.
And whether or not they can opt out or opt their student out of this as well.
Absolutely.
Vice President of Parents Defending Education, Caroline Moore, great to see you on this Friday. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.